Asif Choudhury MD on lifelong learning, curiosity, and personal growth. Learning is often treated as a stage of life, but for people who stay engaged with new ideas, it becomes a lifelong practice. Asif Choudhury MD represents that view through a life shaped by study, cultural connection, community involvement, travel, reading, and an ongoing interest in personal development. His perspective points to a simple lesson. Education does not end when formal training is complete. A thoughtful life often depends on the ability to keep asking questions, stay open to new information, and remain willing to grow with each season of experience. In a world that changes quickly, lifelong learning is not only useful, it is a way to remain connected, adaptable, and mentally active. Asif Choudhury MD and the habit of staying curious. Curiosity is one of the strongest foundations for growth. It begins with the willingness to ask why, how, and what else can be understood. For Asif Choudhury MD, that interest in learning has remained part of his identity across different stages of life. His background reflects the discipline required to study deeply, adapt across cultures, and remain engaged with ideas long after formal education. He has described reading professional journals and following new developments as ways he continues to stay intellectually active. That habit shows how learning can become part of a daily rhythm rather than a task tied to a degree or job title. Curiosity also helps people avoid becoming fixed in one way of thinking. When a person keeps reading, listening, and observing, they build a wider view of the world. They become more comfortable with complexity and more prepared to understand different perspectives. For many adults, the challenge is not a lack of information. The challenge is choosing to remain interested. Books, lectures, articles, documentaries, community events, and thoughtful conversations can all become tools for continued growth. Reading as a path to personal development. Reading remains one of the most practical ways to continue learning. It requires focus, patience, and the ability to sit with ideas long enough to consider them fully. For Asif Choudhury MD, reading has been part of a broader commitment to staying informed and mentally engaged. Books can introduce readers to history, culture, leadership, science, biography, faith, travel, and human behavior. They can sharpen judgment, build empathy, and help people connect personal experience with larger ideas. Unlike quick updates or short online posts, books often give readers the space to think. Personal development also requires variety. A person who only reads within one subject may gain depth, but reading across subjects builds range. A memoir can teach resilience. A history book can explain how communities change. A travel essay can introduce unfamiliar customs. A leadership book can offer language for decision-making and discipline. The value is not only in finishing books. It is in reflecting on them. Readers can ask what they learned, what challenged them, and how a new idea may apply to daily life. That habit turns reading from a pastime into a form of growth. How culture and travel expand perspective. Learning is not limited to classrooms or books. Culture, travel, music, sports, and community gatherings can also deepen a person's understanding of the world. Asif Choudhury MD has long enjoyed soccer, cricket, music, and cultural events, experiences that reflect how learning often happens through participation. Travel can change how people see their own assumptions. It places them in new settings, where language, food, customs, history, and daily routines may differ from what they know. Even local travel can have that effect. A visit to a museum, public lecture, cultural festival, library event, or faith-based gathering can expand awareness. Cultural exploration also builds respect. When people take time to understand traditions different from their own, they often become better listeners. They learn that wisdom can come from many places and that every community carries stories worth hearing. Sports and music can teach similar lessons. Soccer and cricket, for example, are shaped by strategy, timing, teamwork, and patience. Music can connect memory, emotion, and identity. Cultural events can remind people that learning is social, not only intellectual. A well-rounded life draws from all of these sources. Community involvement and meaningful conversation. Some of the most useful learning happens through people. Community involvement gives individuals the chance to hear real stories, understand shared needs, and build relationships across generations. Asif Choudhury MD has been connected to community and cultural organizations, which reflects the role that service and participation can play in personal growth. Communities often serve as informal classrooms. Older adults pass down experience. Younger people bring new questions. Families share traditions. Leaders organize events. Volunteers learn by doing. These settings help people understand how ideas work in real life. Meaningful conversation is especially important. A thoughtful discussion can expose a person to a viewpoint they had not considered. It can clarify values, challenge assumptions, and encourage deeper reflection. Unlike passive learning, conversation requires attention and humility. Mentorship is another form of community-based learning. A mentor does not need to provide every answer. Often, the most useful guidance comes through questions, examples, and steady encouragement. Likewise, people who mentor others often learn from the process of explaining what they know. This exchange keeps knowledge active. It helps learning move from personal benefit to shared value. Why lifelong learning builds adaptability? Adaptability is one of the clearest benefits of lifelong learning. People who continue to read, listen, and explore are often better prepared for change. They are less likely to treat new ideas as threats and more likely to see them as opportunities to understand more. Asif Choudhury MD offers an example of a person who values ongoing engagement with knowledge. His interest in new developments, cultural events, and community connection reflects the mindset needed to keep growing after major career chapters have changed. Adaptability does not mean abandoning core values. It means remaining flexible enough to learn new methods, consider new information, and adjust when life requires it. This is useful for people at every stage of adulthood. A retired professional may learn through volunteer work, reading groups, or travel. A parent may learn through conversations with children and teachers. A business owner may learn through mentors, customer feedback, and industry events. A student may learn by seeking advice from people with more life experience. The common thread is openness. Lifelong learners do not assume that age or experience makes them finished products. They understand that every stage of life can teach something useful. Practical ways to keep learning every day. Lifelong learning works best when it becomes simple and consistent. It does not require a formal program or a major schedule change. Small habits can create steady growth over time. Reading for 20 minutes a day is one place to begin. Choosing one book each month across different subjects can help build range. Attending a community lecture, cultural event, or local discussion group can add new voices to a person's routine. People can also learn through conversation. Calling an older relative, meeting a mentor for coffee, or asking someone about their work can reveal lessons that no textbook can provide. Curiosity becomes stronger when it is practiced with respect. Travel, even close to home, can also support learning. Visiting a new neighborhood, trying a different restaurant, attending a cultural celebration, or exploring a historic site can help people notice details they usually overlook. Journaling is another useful tool. Writing down questions, lessons, and reflections helps organize thought. It also allows people to track how their views change over time. For Asif Choudhury MD, the larger point is that learning remains available to anyone willing to stay engaged. A life shaped by curiosity and growth. The value of lifelong learning is not measured only by credentials or public recognition. It is measured by how a person continues to think, listen, adapt, and contribute. Asif Choudhury MD reflects the idea that intellectual curiosity can remain a steady guide long after formal milestones have passed. A curious person keeps reading. A thoughtful person keeps asking questions. An open-minded person keeps learning from people, places, books, culture, and experience. That approach creates a fuller life. It supports personal growth, strengthens relationships, and helps individuals remain active participants in the world around them. For those seeking a practical model, the lesson is clear. Keep a book nearby. Attend events that introduce new ideas. Travel with attention. Listen to people from different backgrounds. Share knowledge when it can help others. Ask better questions. It encourages steady reflection instead of complacency. It also reminds readers that growth is built through ordinary choices, repeated with care, attention, and patience. Those choices keep the mind active and help experience become wisdom over time. They also keep daily life more purposeful. In the end, lifelong learning is less about having every answer and more about staying willing to learn. That willingness can shape how a person grows, serves, and remains connected throughout life.